The 1960s brought us muscle cars, moon landings, and one of the most explosive automotive controversies in American history. The Chevrolet Corvair seemed like the perfect car for modern families, innovative, economical, and uniquely American. But what started as General Motors' answer to foreign compact cars quickly became a national scandal that would change automotive safety forever. When a young lawyer named Ralph Nader published Unsafe at Any Speed, he didn't just attack a car, he took on corporate America itself. What followed was a bitter battle involving private investigators, Senate hearings, and accusations that would rock the automotive industry to its core. So, was the Corvair really as dangerous as critics claimed? Or was it simply a victim of corporate politics and media hysteria? In this video, we'll uncover the complete story behind the Chevrolet Corvair scandal, from its revolutionary debut to its controversial downfall, revealing the shocking truth about one of America's most misunderstood automobiles. Let's get started. Back in 1960, Ed Cole walked into General Motors with a bold vision that would change American automotive history. As Chevrolet's chief engineer, Cole watched foreign cars like the Volkswagen Beetle and Renault Dauphine capture American hearts and wallets. These small, economical vehicles filled a growing need for affordable second cars in suburban families. So Cole refused to follow Ford and Chrysler's approach of simply shrinking existing front-engine designs. He wanted something revolutionary. The Corvair emerged from Cole's determination to build a proper American compact car. Unlike anything Detroit had produced, the Corvair featured a rear-mounted, air-cooled aluminum engine. The flat-six engine produced 80 horsepower initially, enough to propel the 2,270-pound car from 0 to 60 in 21.2 seconds according to Motor Trend. More importantly, the rear engine placement freed up interior space, allowing the Corvair to seat 6 people comfortably despite its compact exterior dimensions. Time magazine recognized the significance of Cole's achievement by featuring him and the Corvair on their cover. The automotive press embraced the innovation with unprecedented enthusiasm. Motor Trend named the Corvair their 1960 Car of the Year, praising its smooth ride, quiet operation, and impressive fuel economy. Road and Track's first review called it a sane, sensible, well-designed car of a type we've been asking for 10 years. The public responded immediately. Chevrolet sold 250,007 Corvairs in 1960, the car's debut year. Sales exploded to 337,371 units in 1961, making it clear that Americans wanted this innovative compact car. The success continued with over 215,000 units sold annually through 1965. These numbers represented real money for General Motors, with the base Corvair priced under $2,000, making it accessible to middle-class families looking for economical transportation. Cole's team expanded the Corvair concept into a complete family of vehicles. The lineup grew to include 2-door and 4-door sedans, a station wagon called the Lakewood, the sporty Monza Coupe, and even commercial variants. The Corvair van and pickup truck shared the same rear-engine platform, offering unique load-carrying capabilities thanks to their flat floors and low loading heights. The Monza variant deserves special attention for transforming the economy car into something genuinely exciting. Introduced in 1960 as a premium trim level, the Monza featured bucket seats, a floor-mounted shifter, and attractive interior appointments. Sales of Monza models often exceeded the base sedan, proving American buyers wanted style with their efficiency. Chevrolet even offered a turbocharged Spider version starting in 1962, producing 150 horsepower and establishing Chevrolet as a pioneer in forced induction technology. Racing enthusiasts discovered the Corvair's potential early. The rear engine layout provided excellent traction for acceleration, while the compact dimensions made the car nimble on road courses. Independent racing teams began campaigning Corvairs in SCCA events, where the cars proved competitive against European sports cars costing twice as much. The early Corvair years represented everything right about American automotive innovation. Engineers had created something genuinely new. Consumers embraced it enthusiastically, and the automotive press celebrated the departure from conventional thinking. Sales figures told the story of success. Nearly 1.2 million Corvairs sold between 1960 and 1964, with production facilities running at capacity to meet demand. But beneath the success story, engineering decisions made in the pursuit of low costs and innovative design were creating conditions for controversy. The same rear-engine layout that provided interior space and unique styling also concentrated weight over the rear wheels in ways that would soon prove problematic. Little did anyone know that the very innovations that made the Corvair special were setting the stage for a safety controversy that would rock the automotive industry to its core. The Corvair's problems began with a single engineering decision that seemed perfectly reasonable at the time. Chevrolet chose a swing-axle rear suspension system, the same basic design used successfully in the Volkswagen Beetle and countless other European cars. The system was simple, reliable, and inexpensive to manufacture. For the cost-conscious Corvair project, it appeared ideal. However, the Corvair's swing-axle setup differed from the Beetle's in crucial ways. The Corvair's aluminum flat-six engine weighed significantly more than the Beetle's smaller four-cylinder unit. Additionally, the Corvair carried 60 to 63% of its total weight over the rear wheels, compared to the Beetle's more modest rear weight bias. This concentration of mass created handling characteristics that American drivers had never experienced. The swing-axle design suffered from a fundamental flaw called camber change. During cornering, the outside rear wheel would tuck under the car, while the inside wheel would tip outward. This dramatic change in wheel angle reduced the tire's contact patch with the road surface, especially during emergency maneuvers or when cornering at speed. The heavier the load on the rear axle, the more severe this camber change became. Chevrolet's engineers understood this limitation and developed a solution: dramatically different tire pressures front and rear. The owner's manual specified 15 psi in the front tires and 26 psi in the rear when the tires were hot. Some sources recommended even higher rear pressures, up to 30 psi. These unusual requirements aimed to compensate for the Corvair's tendency to oversteer by making the front tires more likely to lose grip first. The tire pressure solution created its own problems. American drivers were accustomed to maintaining equal pressures in all four tires, typically around 24 psi. Gas station attendants, tire shops, and even some Chevrolet service departments were unfamiliar with the Corvair's unique requirements. Many Corvair owners drove their cars with equal pressures all around, unknowingly making the handling problems worse. Cost considerations prevented GM from implementing solutions that could have eliminated these issues entirely. Engineers proposed adding a front anti-roll bar to shift more of the cornering forces to the front wheels, reducing the rear suspension's workload during turns. The part would have cost approximately $15 per car to install. Accounting departments rejected the addition as unnecessary expense for an economy car. Another solution involved adding a camber compensating spring to the rear suspension. This device would have reduced the dramatic camber changes that made the swing axles problematic. Again, cost considerations prevented its implementation on early Corvairs. Phil Hill, the 1961 Formula One world champion, experienced the Corvair's handling limitations firsthand during secret testing for General Motors. Chevrolet flew Hill to Detroit to evaluate the car's performance, hoping he might serve as an expert witness in growing litigation. Hill successfully navigated a prescribed cone course at increasingly high speeds, demonstrating that a skilled driver could handle the Corvair safely. After completing the official testing, Hill decided to run the cone course in reverse direction for fun. The car immediately rolled onto its side. Hill's experience illustrated the Corvair's fundamental problem. It was safe and predictable when driven within normal parameters by informed drivers, but dangerous when subjected to unexpected situations or driver errors. The Corvair's heating system presented another engineering compromise with safety implications. The air-cooled engine used a shroud system that directed air over the engine's cooling fins. This same air provided heat for the passenger compartment through ducts that ran from the engine bay to the interior. If the engine developed any exhaust leaks or the shroud system became damaged, carbon monoxide could enter the passenger compartment. Testing later revealed that 6 out of 292 Corvairs examined showed dangerous levels of carbon monoxide in their heating systems. While not a majority of cars, this represented a potentially deadly flaw that could have been avoided with a different heating system design. The bias-ply tires of the early 60s compounded the Corvair's problems. These tires, standard equipment on all cars of the era, had flexible sidewalls that could not maintain optimal contact with the road surface under the stress of emergency maneuvers. Radial tires, which would become common later in the decade, provided much better performance, but were not yet widely available. General Motors had created a car with genuine innovations and real benefits, but engineering compromises made in pursuit of low costs and manufacturing simplicity had introduced handling characteristics that proved dangerous for unprepared drivers. So while Chevrolet celebrated record sales, a growing number of Corvair owners were discovering that their innovative compact car could become uncontrollable in situations where conventional cars remained manageable. The first accident reports came from California. Drivers described identical scenarios, attempting to avoid an obstacle or make an emergency lane change, feeling the rear of the Corvair suddenly swing out, overcorrecting the steering, and then watching helplessly as their car spun out of control. Many of these accidents occurred without the Corvair hitting any other vehicle or obstacle. Lawyers began calling them one-car accidents. Rose Pierini's case became one of the most famous early Corvair lawsuits. In October 1960, Pierini was driving her new Corvair when she swerved to avoid a cardboard box in the road. The car immediately went into an uncontrollable spin, rolled over, and seriously injured her. Her lawsuit against General Motors claimed the Corvair's design made it unreasonably dangerous for normal driving conditions. The legal proceedings revealed disturbing details about Corvair accidents. Testimony showed that the car's tendency to suddenly oversteer caught drivers completely off guard. Unlike conventional front-engine cars that would understeer in emergencies, pushing straight ahead until the driver reduced speed, the Corvair would snap into oversteer without warning. Drivers trained on conventional vehicles instinctively turned the steering wheel further in the direction they wanted to go, making the oversteer worse. Dr. Sheldon C. Plotkin, a physician from Pennsylvania, documented his own terrifying experience with a Corvair. Driving on a straight highway at moderate speed, he moved slightly to avoid a pothole. The rear of the car immediately swung out, sending the vehicle into a series of uncontrollable fishtails across multiple lanes of traffic before he managed to bring it under control. Plotkin's medical background helped him provide detailed, credible testimony about the physical forces involved in the incident. The Corvair's construction created additional dangers during accidents. The car's hood attached to the body with relatively weak hinges designed to reduce manufacturing costs. During rollover accidents, these hinges often failed, allowing the hood to separate from the car and become a deadly projectile. Several fatalities resulted from victims being struck by their own car's hood during the accidents. Insurance industry data began reflecting the Corvair's problems. Some insurance companies started charging higher premiums for Corvair coverage, while others refused to write policies for the car entirely. The National Safety Council noted that Corvair accident rates exceeded those of comparable vehicles in certain categories, particularly single-vehicle accidents involving loss of control. Chevrolet dealers began reporting customer complaints about handling problems. Service bulletins attempted to address the issues by reminding dealers about proper tire pressure specifications and offering suspension modifications. However, these efforts came across as acknowledgments that problems existed, further damaging the car's reputation. The carbon monoxide issue added another dimension to the Corvair's safety problems. Several cases documented drivers becoming drowsy or disoriented due to carbon monoxide poisoning from defective heating systems. One case involved a family whose Corvair's heating system leaked exhaust gases into the passenger compartment during a long trip, causing the driver to lose consciousness and crash. Legal discovery processes revealed internal General Motors documents showing that engineers were aware of the Corvair's handling limitations during development. Memos discussed the swing axle suspension's tendency to produce sudden oversteer and recommended solutions like front anti-roll bars. However, these recommendations were not implemented on production cars due to cost considerations. The lawsuits multiplied rapidly. By 1965, General Motors faced over 100 Corvair-related lawsuits, seeking damages totaling more than $40 million. Each case brought additional negative publicity and forced GM to defend design decisions that were becoming increasingly difficult to justify. Accident reconstruction experts testified that conventional cars subjected to the same emergency maneuvers that cause Corvair accidents would typically remain controllable. This testimony established that the Corvair's problems were not simply due to driver error or exceptional circumstances, but resulted from inherent design characteristics. The medical evidence was particularly damning. Emergency room physicians reported seeing unusual injury patterns in Corvair accidents, including severe head trauma from hood strikes and crushing injuries from rollover accidents that occurred at relatively low speeds. These injury patterns were rare in conventional car accidents under similar circumstances. Personal injury attorneys across the country even began specializing in Corvair cases. They developed expertise in the car's technical problems and built networks of expert witnesses who could explain the swing axle suspension's limitations to juries. This specialization made Corvair litigation more effective and expensive for General Motors to defend. As the lawsuits mounted and negative publicity grew, General Motors faced a choice: admit the Corvair had serious safety problems or fight back against critics using every tool at their disposal. General Motors' initial response to Corvair criticism followed the corporate playbook of the 1960s. Deny everything, attack critics, and never admit fault. And when Ralph Nader's book, Unsafe at Any Speed, gained national attention in 1965, GM executives decided that destroying Nader's credibility was preferable to addressing the Corvair's problems directly. The company hired Gill & Associates, a private investigation firm, to conduct what they euphemistically called routine investigation of Nader. The investigators' assignment went far beyond checking Nader's professional qualifications. They interviewed Nader's friends, family members, and associates, asking questions designed to uncover embarrassing personal information. Investigators posed as magazine writers and job recruiters to gain access to people in Nader's circle. The investigation took increasingly desperate turns at times. Attractive young women approached Nader in public places, attempting to lure him into compromising situations. Investigators followed him to the Library of Congress, where he conducted research and monitored his personal activities around Washington, D.C. They questioned his friends about his political beliefs, personal relationships, and financial situation. GM spent approximately $6,700 on the investigation, a significant sum in 1960s dollars. The company's goal was finding information that could discredit Nader publicly and deflect attention from the Corvair's technical problems. However, the investigators found nothing damaging about Nader's personal life or professional conduct. The private investigation backfired spectacularly when details became public. Senator Abraham Ribicoff's subcommittee on executive reorganization was already investigating automotive safety when news of GM's harassment campaign broke. Ribicoff summoned GM President James Rush to testify before the subcommittee in March 1966. The Senate hearing became one of the most dramatic corporate accountability moments of the decade. Rush sat at the witness table facing a room packed with reporters and television cameras while Senator Ribicoff methodically exposed the details of GM's investigation. Rush was forced to admit that GM had hired private investigators to probe Nader's personal life and acknowledge that the investigation was inappropriate. Rush's discomfort was visible as he struggled to defend the indefensible. The hearing's most memorable moment came when Rush directly apologized to Nader, who was present in the hearing room. The apology was broadcast on national television and reported in newspapers across the country. Meanwhile, GM continued fighting the Corvair battle on technical grounds. Company engineers produced studies attempting to show that the Corvair's handling was acceptable and that driver error caused most accidents. They argued that proper tire pressure maintenance and careful driving could prevent the problems critics described. The company quietly made significant changes to the Corvair during production. In 1964, GM added the front anti-roll bar that engineers had recommended from the beginning. The $15 part helped reduce the car's tendency to oversteer by transferring more cornering forces to the front wheels. However, GM never publicly admitted that the addition was a safety improvement, describing it instead as a handling enhancement. The 1965 model year brought a complete redesign of the Corvair's rear suspension. The new independent rear suspension eliminated the swing axle design entirely, replacing it with a sophisticated system using individual wheel control and camber compensation. The new suspension transformed the Corvair's handling characteristics, making it as predictable and safe as conventional cars. GM's public relations department worked to minimize attention to these changes. Press releases described the new suspension as an improvement rather than a fix for safety problems. The company maintained that the original suspension was adequate and that changes were made to enhance performance rather than address safety concerns. Internal GM documents revealed during litigation showed a different story. Engineering memos described the original swing axle suspension as problematic and recommended immediate implementation of fixes. Cost accounting departments had blocked these recommendations for 4 years, prioritizing manufacturing savings over safety improvements. The corporate culture at GM during this period prioritized loyalty and message discipline above technical honesty. Engineers who raised safety concerns found their careers stalled, while executives who minimized problems received promotions. This culture made it impossible for the company to respond effectively to legitimate criticism. GM's legal strategy involved fighting every Corvair lawsuit aggressively, even cases with clear evidence of design defects. The company's goal was making litigation so expensive and time-consuming that lawyers would stop taking Corvair cases. This approach backfired by generating additional negative publicity with each trial. By 1967, General Motors had won the battle against Ralph Nader in terms of legal vindication, but lost the war for public opinion, setting the stage for government intervention that would change automotive safety forever. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's 1972 report on the Corvair delivered a stunning conclusion that few people noticed. After extensive testing of various Corvair models against contemporary vehicles, NHTSA found that the controversial car compares favorably with contemporary vehicles used in the tests. The government agency that Ralph Nader's activism had helped create concluded that the Corvair was not particularly dangerous after all. NHTSA's testing methodology was comprehensive and scientific. Engineers subjected 1963 and 1967 Corvairs to standardized handling tests alongside other compact cars from the same era, including the Ford Falcon, Volkswagen Beetle, and Renault Dauphine. The tests measured factors like rollover propensity, directional stability, and controllability during emergency maneuvers. The results contradicted years of negative publicity. In most test categories, the Corvair performed as well as or better than its contemporaries. The 1967 Corvair, with its redesigned suspension, actually outperformed several conventional cars in handling tests. Even the controversial early Corvairs showed handling characteristics within the normal range for 1960s compact cars. The report's technical analysis revealed that many Corvair accidents resulted from factors common to all cars of the era: bias ply tires with poor wet weather performance, drum brakes with limited stopping power, and lack of safety equipment like seatbelts and padded dashboards. The Corvair's rear engine layout was not inherently more dangerous than conventional front engine designs when proper tire pressures were maintained. However, the Vindication came far too late to save the Corvair. General Motors had discontinued production in 1969, 3 years before the NHTSA report appeared. By 1972, Americans were focused on other issues: the Vietnam War, Watergate, and the emerging energy crisis. The automotive press gave minimal coverage to the government's findings, and the general public never learned that the unsafe Corvair had been officially cleared. The Ford Mustang had also delivered the final blow to Corvair sales years before the safety controversy peaked. Introduced in April 1964, the Mustang captured American buyers' imagination with its long hood, short deck styling, and powerful V8 engine options. The pony car formula offered performance and style that the practical Corvair could not match. Corvair sales collapsed from over 200,000 units annually in 1965 to just 14,000 in 1968. General Motors had originally planned to discontinue the model in 1966 to focus resources on the new Camaro, but kept production going to avoid appearing to admit defeat. The decision to continue production through 1969 was purely about corporate pride rather than market demand. Modern automotive journalists have revisited the Corvair controversy with sophisticated testing equipment unavailable in the 1960s. Hagerty's 2024 evaluation involved professional drivers attempting to replicate the emergency maneuvers that supposedly made early Corvairs dangerous. Test driver Larry Webster described the car's handling as graceful and fun, noting that the Corvair provided controllable oversteer that reminded him of driving race cars. Webster's testing took place on a closed runway where he deliberately attempted to roll the Corvair by making violent steering inputs at speed. Despite his best efforts, the car remained controllable and refused to roll over. His conclusion was that the Corvair had been a sacrificial lamb that forced the automotive industry to take safety seriously. The Corvair enthusiast community has worked for decades to rehabilitate the car's reputation, and early Corvair Monza coupes and turbocharged Spyder models now command premium prices, especially well-preserved examples. The cars that were once considered dangerous curiosities are now appreciated for their innovative engineering and unique driving characteristics. The safety controversy ultimately benefited automotive safety overall. The National Traffic and Motor Vehicle Safety Act of 1966 established federal safety standards for all vehicles sold in America. Modern cars now include dozens of safety features that trace their origins to regulations implemented after the Corvair controversy. Energy-absorbing steering columns, padded dashboards, seatbelt requirements, and standardized lighting systems. Ralph Nader's criticism of the Corvair launched his career as America's most prominent consumer advocate. His success in taking on General Motors inspired consumer protection movements across multiple industries, and the principle that corporations must prioritize safety over profits became widely accepted largely due to the Corvair case. The Corvair scandal transformed automotive safety from an optional consideration to a regulatory requirement. This innovative car's controversial legacy reminds us that progress often comes through conflict and that corporate accountability requires constant vigilance from consumers and government alike. So what do you think about the Corvair controversy? Would you have bought one of these innovative rear-engine cars back in the day? Or would the safety concerns have kept you away? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed diving into this automotive scandal, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating car stories and controversies. Until next time, thanks for watching.